morning, Barry.
Good
Such a
morning.
privilege to have you here join us on the series of what not to do in entrepreneurship. You have done an incredible job of building this media empire, I call it, in the Marti Gras space. Today, for our entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, inspiring entrepreneurs, we would love to hear the journey, the life, and most importantly enough, your knowledge of how you could tell these others on what not to do in entrepreneurship. So please tell us a little bit about yourself to start and about your journey that began so many years ago.
Well, I mean, this is a family business, and of course, my father, is the guy who really kind of grew Mardi Gras into what it is today. But Mardi Gras continues to grow and get bigger, and we, as a business, have continued to kind of help push that. And it's a very what we have here in New Orleans is probably unique to anywhere else in the world in terms of this cultural event where you have people that are spending this type of money and impact in terms of what they can do and put on a show for themselves as well as for tourists and people that come in from out of town.
So, Barry, were you to think of this as a playground for entrepreneurs, wherein more minds would come in with creative thought processes?
Sure.
How would you say you enable that in such a creative space?
Well, I mean, listen, there are in our business, we have many different companies that do the same thing that we do. But what's interesting about how we approach it is obviously, things that or mistakes that you can always make is that, we don't cut any corners when it comes to building and do what we do.
So don't cut corners is one of the prime elements of your success.
Well, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, there's always the top and there's the bottom. And if you're in the middle, you're gonna get squished. So we kind of cater to the top end.
Right.
And we have a lot of competitors that do the same thing that we do, and basically they're all fighting for the middle and the down below. But for the most part, what I see is that there's always a market for the best. And if you can produce the best at a value and create value for your customers. I mean, we're doing things that no one else is doing. So we've got props and artwork and pieces and things that you see around here that the other competitors don't have. So we've created value by always doing the best job and then taking that work that we do and making it available in other places around the world where we do business. And so our business outside of New Orleans has helped grow our business in New Orleans and vice versa.
So would you say that you want to inspire other entrepreneurs to engage in the creation of the enhancement, the quality of Mardi Gras that you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think anybody that's in business, you should always be looking at what value can you bring that other people can't, right? Or your competitors can't. And so I think that if you can always be doing something new and different, and that's the other thing that we do. Every year we innovate. If there's something new that happens in this industry, in this business, we're the ones who do it. And we introduce it.
So typically it's the understanding of common people that innovation happens at entrepreneurial companies.
Sure.
But you are a big corporation and you create innovation.
Yeah.
How do you manage both, Barry?
Well, I mean, no, because but we also, I mean, in our business, we're big. But in the world, I mean, it's a very unique business, right? So what we always do is try to create a different value, a different look, something different that sets us apart from the rest of the people that are doing this. Because our customers have a choice. They can pay much less for a product, or they can pay for our product, which is cost more,
high
end, and but we find that most and frankly all the successful organizations do business with us.
So would you call yourselves positioned as the Tiffany's of the parade entertainment business from an high-end point of view, value point of view, respect point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people understand that in terms of, and again, it's not just the artwork and the physical things that we produce and the aesthetics. It's also the service, the way we treat the customers, the logistics. I mean, because part of our business is not only to build this stuff, it's also to operate it for our customers, put it on the streets, work with the police, work with the city to make this whole festival come together. So our guys are the ones that work with the city officials and with our customers. It's kind of the other thing is we do is a turnkey.
Yeah, it's like a one-stop solution.
It's a one-stop solution, exactly.
And creating success for a customer as a one-stop solution this is another example of the value.
You know, I mean, there's a sense in the community that if you don't do business with us, then you're not the top end, and you're not serious about what you're doing.
So that's a very impressive positioning, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I think it's self-fulfilling, right? I mean, if we continue to do what we do and continue to innovate and change and do things that other people aren't doing and provide value that other people can't do or won't do, that's what we do. I mean, how
do you find that out, Barry? How do you find out those things that other people can do? What are your sort of the sensors around the minds of people?
So, because we're doing business in a lot of places all over and doing business for some of the biggest entertainment companies in the world. So we're doing business for companies like Disney and Universal Studios, or, you know, billboards, you see Chick-fil-A, you see the cows on the billboards, or you go out on the Las Vegas Strip and you see the giant signs, the M&Ms and giant Harley Davidsons. We build all these types of things. So we have always been kind of out in that sector doing things that were outside of just what we did here in New Orleans, and things that frankly were quite interesting to people all over and were seen by people all over the world. So we would get all the best ideas, the latest technologies. We had that opportunity to do those outside of New Orleans and then bring those back to New Orleans. At the same time, we have people, our customers outside of New Orleans there's a lot of people that would love to recreate what happens in New Orleans.
Of course.
And so they're trying to recreate the success and the entertainment value that Carnival brings to New Orleans.
So now that you have already learned how to push envelope of ideas, concept, creativity, if you had to look back, what would you have done differently so that either you could have achieved different, better, or similar, but in a shorter pathway of life? What would an entrepreneur learn from what you have done that he could avoid some of those, or he or she, of course?
Well, you know, it's the same thing, that the things that I've learned, and also, you know, that maybe would have been good to know 20 or 30 years ago when I was first coming into the business is that, you know, you can't ever, a lot of times the customers want to keep the pricing the same as it was before. And I can tell you that if you're not raising your prices, and frankly, if your customers aren't raising their prices or charging more for the dues to be members of these organizations, if those organizations aren't always pushing for the latest and greatest, and we're not, then it would be static. And the reason why New Orleans and Carnival is successful today and hasn't just become another event is the fact that it continues to change and evolve and get better. And frankly, people are spending more money, always continue to spend more and more money to create this value. So now, not to mean that, you know, compared to what you would see in other cities,
right?
This is we've created value on a level that is amazing when you consider what these floats really do and what we're able to do. But it's because you're doing so much of it, right?
Yeah.
And so in other places, they can't put on a show like this, even if they spend a lot more money, because they don't have an industry, right? It's not a culture. It's not part of what they do.
Right. So a part of gathering the world to come to New Orleans is not only the fact that you learn from the world, but you also, people come here to learn.
Yeah, well,
What's
yeah, I
kind
think
of-
everybody comes here because they want to experience something that's different. And the
Yes.
difference is, is that Mardi Gras Carnival in New Orleans is a totally different celebration compared to any other of these celebrations that you see anywhere else in the country. It's interactive, it's non-commercial, there's no commercial sponsorship. And frankly, it's a cultural event where you'll see generations of families riding the floats and generations of families on the streets that will go to the same corner, the same spot. It brings everybody from the wealthiest people in New Orleans to the poorest, brings everybody together. So it's a very unique celebration. And really, I think it's the most unique cultural celebration in this country. And certainly, per capita, more money is spent by private citizens in this city on this celebration than any other event in this country. And
Wow.
maybe even in the world in terms of
Wow.
the investment of the people in the community and what they put into Carnival and Mardi Gras.
And you didn't get there by just letting it happen. You designed it to make it happen.
Well, yeah, and that was something that was started by my dad, 50 years ago to continue to make it different. Because Carnival at one time was very much, it was a group very small, and it had to grow, it had to democratize, and that's something that he'll tell you about.
Okay. So, you have created a lot of knowledge, which I consider as tools in the toolbox of an entrepreneur. And if you had a choice of sharing what some of those 5 tools that if you were talking to a business class, what would be those tools, Barry?
Well, so always strive to be the best in the industry, in what you're in your space. Strive to create value, right? Because even though we do the best, and we're maybe the most expensive here in New Orleans, when we compete on an international level, we still provide the best, but we're not necessarily the most expensive. But we still provide the best quality. Third, that, value your customer. You can never, again, the customer has to always feel that they're engaged and they're important. Because it's really amazing that if you don't, we spend a lot of time with our customers, I think that's probably as important as anything that you can do, is always let them know that they're important. Because if they, a customer can very easily, if they don't feel like they're getting attention, someone else could come in and all of a sudden they're gone. And you haven't done anything necessarily wrong, but you just didn't,
not done it right.
you just didn't do it right. And doing it right is that they want to always feel like you're engaged and you care about what they have going on. And then maybe the 5th thing, that I would think is that, it takes a lot of work, right? A lot of hours. And no one's going to be successful 9 to 5. It just doesn't happen. I get home every night. This week I've been home every night at like 8 o'clock at night. And it's basically 12 hours a day. That's what the life is. And I'll be getting on a plane to go out of the country next Tuesday, where I'll be up night and day because I'll be on the phone here with people in the United States and doing work in Asia. So that's probably the most important thing. Because listen, there are many, many smart people in business, but the smartest people are not necessarily the most successful. Believe me, hard work can get you past a lot of people.
Yes.
And that's the other thing is I think people that, I really believe that today people don't understand the value of putting in the time.
Yes.
At least that's what I see.
They look for shortcuts.
They look for shortcuts. And if you don't put in the time, and frankly, it takes a lot of time to do what you're doing. And particularly, believe me, I could stay here all night and never run out of something to do. But eventually, but I guess my point is that it just takes a lot of hard work to be successful. Nobody is successful because they just kind of walk in when they want and leave early in the afternoon. It just doesn't work that way.
Barry, you sort of brought up some very important point, and I want to make sure that all of the listeners and the viewers understand it. You said to me, look, if we don't increase the value perception to our customers, where they can charge more so that we get paid more, I don't think a lot of people think that. It is so important that because of your contribution, the customer just cannot pay you more unless he gets more.
Right.
And bringing that
Well, and everybody wants to be the best.
Yeah, best. But unless you bring that awareness that Mardi Gras, I'm making this effort to enable you to charge more for your capabilities and services that you offer. And in return, then you pay me more for my services. And that builds an escalating value proposition, not just for you to get paid more, which typically just people want, but to enable the customer to get paid more for what he, and that's an amazing learning from something that you just shared today. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So in this journey of so many 20 plus years, there are some beautiful experiences, some heartfelt experiences that touched you, that would touch the viewers. Share a couple of them with us, please.
Well, you know, I mean, there's so many experiences.
And they can be funny and
have.
emotional too, you know. So.
Well, I mean, I think that obviously we're in a, you know, I said that we're in a very unique business, and I think that we provide something that everybody enjoys and happy. So we're in, you know, we provide something that everybody's happy to see. So you don't normally, you know, most of our experiences are really good because, frankly, what we provide to the city and what our customers provide to the city is happiness and joy, and something that everybody in New Orleans loves and wants to participate in. So, I mean, I think that's probably the, you know, the most important thing is knowing that you're doing something that really does, you know, make an impact on your city.
On the city and the quality of life of people.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. You know, New Orleans has always been a city where most of the people get along very well, in general.
In general.
Because we all come together during Carnival. And, you know, other places don't do that. Not the way we do it. Because we do it day and night for basically 12 days. And it really goes on from from 12th night. It goes on for a matter of weeks, you know, into months. And so, you know, everybody comes together and has a great time.
But isn't the Mardi Gras a result of an year-long worth of effort and thinking?
Well, for us, we work all year long, and everything comes down to basically 2 weeks, right? Correct. And so it's like a giant funnel.
Yeah.
The other thing, you know, that I think that I could say is that's maybe not necessarily, but a point that I can make is, the other thing I found is that if you give somebody 2 months to get something done, or you give them a month to get it done, if you give them 2 months, they'll take 2 months, and if you give them a month, they'll get it done in a month.
They expand the work.
They expand the way, exactly, to fit within the time. So that's the other thing is that we've had to train our people that we don't let them dictate what's going to get done. We always tell them what we need to get done. And we never ever, that's the other thing is we don't ever tell our customers no. So we will take orders up until the very end, and we just get it out and we get it done. A lot of people won't do that.
So you don't have a time limit by which you must get things in.
Well, we'd like to do that. Right. Of course, there's a cost associated with doing it at the last minute. Right. And so we take advantage of that. But we're probably, we're incredibly efficient in our ability to build stuff.
And experienced also. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. In this journey, we in our world of entrepreneurship, yours and mine, we always use what is called as a GPS, which is a guru positioning system. Somebody that has enlightens, brightens, helps you through the process.
Sure.
If there were one or two people, of course your dad, you already said that. But if there are one or two people that you would like to share that kind of experience you had and what you learned.
So we are lucky because we get this because of the job that we do in New Orleans. The guys that run these parades and that are the captains of these organizations are an interesting group of people. So we get to interact with basically all of the different socioeconomic classes and different organizations and the different people. So we get to interact with a lot of different people. So there's a lot of people that we work with, captains of these organizations that are very successful, that you get to learn a lot from. You know, you get to learn a lot from the way that they want to do business. You know, and so you learn from them. And there's obviously a lot of lessons learned. And now, obviously, I'm getting to an age now where the guys are younger than me. They used to all be older than me. But now a lot of the captains and the people that I'm working with are younger. And so I'm able to share a lot of the experiences that, or the best practices that we saw with our customers, the ones that I worked with when I was younger and saw that were successful. And we get to tell the new guys and the young guys what those guys did to be successful. And of course, this business changes. I mean, even the way that they do it has changed, but there's still basics to it. And so there's a lot of lessons to be learned, even from things that were done 30 and 40 years ago. We haven't totally, not everything, not everything changes.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that you learned various disciplines from various of the expert people, in addition to you, of course?
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, right? Sure. You learned a lot. We learned a lot, and also learned a lot working for different customers. You know, you learn a lot working for Disney. We learned a lot working for Universal Studios. We learned a lot working for the billboards, you know, for even for Chick-fil-A, the things that we did. We had to invent ways to do different things. We had to change the ways we did business to do work with different customers. So that's the other thing, is that we've learned to be very, we can change on a dime to basically work with our customers and to get done what needs to get done. Because sometimes oftentimes we get asked to build things and do things that nobody else has ever done. So when you're doing something like that, there's always a learning curve, right? And so obviously, you know, you might have a general sense of what you're going to do, but oftentimes a lot of things that we're doing, it's very customized, right, every time. So, you know, you learn there's challenges with that, right? And so you have to have a group of people that do it that are used to coming up and meeting the challenges. And we have a very good team of people that, frankly, deal with everything we can throw at them. You know, nobody around here is worried about running out of work.
Well, that's a pretty good.
They always ask me, "Do you ever tell anybody no?" I'm like, not often.
So all of this work, value, customers you create, has, of course, needs to demand on cash.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's the fundamental nerve of any
growth.
system.
That's
growth.
The other thing.
Right.
That's growth. The single. Listen, that's the other thing that's probably as important as anything, because that's king, right?
Yes.
Because if you don't have that, and when you're growing a business, you need it more than ever.
Yes.
Because you can get a new big customer, and you're going to spend a lot of money to make that customer happen, and they might not necessarily be giving you the funding that you need to get you there. So that's another very important thing, is having the ability to fund growth.
Yeah. So in your journey of funding the growth, obviously there are always, you feel, easier ways. You go to somebody, third party, get the capital, and maybe change the way the company is controlled. But to date, you have kept your company fully in control.
Yeah.
And managed the growth. What would you recommend? How would you recommend that the budding entrepreneurs look at supporting the capital, the right kind of capital, in order to maintain and continue to support the growth you see?
Well, I mean, you know, so our business is based upon 5-year contracts with our customers. So, and it's obviously in an industry that is a proven track record, right? Mardi Gras has been in New Orleans almost as long as New Orleans has been around, right? Right. The celebration. So we have a track record, our customers have a track record, and we have a track record of doing that. And so, you know, the banks and the people that we deal with know that we have this experience working with them, and they know that these people are going to do this and have the ability to pay. That's been important, but it hasn't always been that way, and that was part of what I was telling you, is that you have to raise prices as you create value, but also you have to raise prices because the prices, everything's always creeping on you.
Correct.
As a business. Every day it's more expensive, whether the insurance, your labor, everything continues. And so you can't, and we build into our contracts cost of living increases to try to stay up with
for the employees.
With the employees and for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a constantly moving thing. So obviously your relationships with the banks and with the people that your lenders, I mean, that's also very important. You got to stay ahead of that and make sure that they understand everything that's going on at every moment. My son's in the business now. He's on the phone every day with the banks, telling them what's going on.
So banks is your prime source of capital for growth today?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we do is we're able to put our customers with those banks as well.
Okay.
So we provide value to our bank.
Yes.
By bringing
the new customers.
Right. Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself as a growth of the business, where outside different kind of capital from private wealth and sources like that could give you additional cushion of capital?
Maybe, but again, there's something to be said for running your own show, and obviously that's not always an option for everybody. So and look, we are in partnerships with different people, but it's obviously much easier to deal with yourself than there's no perfect partnership. I can tell you that.
Yes. No, so this is such a massive social engagement that you could potentially create a high wealth crowdfunding sources.
Yeah, of course.
Needed because people see the results, right?
Right.
So, in general, entrepreneurs always struggle with what is the right source of capital.
Sure.
And very early, because their lives get easier with somebody else's money.
Yeah, well, this business is not your typical business, so probably some of those other sources of funds are not stuff that's really necessarily would be available to us, just because it's very hard to explain to people what we're doing. I mean, you can look at it on paper and understand it, but the reality of it is it's not your typical business. So those sources of funds are not something that maybe would necessarily be available to us. We're so established now, we probably could do it, but the typical guy in our business wouldn't be able to.
So your business and revenue models are so intricate.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It's very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique.
Very intricate. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Barry. Are there any questions that you have for me that you would love to know about entrepreneurship that would help my readers say, that's the question you didn't answer for me, or something like that?
Well, obviously, for me, it's always, you always want to interact, because I'm in a lot of business organizations where you talk to people all the time and you hear life experiences and you hear what they can share with you and tell you what they do. And obviously, in those kind of environments is where you learn. And so I wouldn't necessarily have a question as much as I have. Obviously, it's for you to interview people like me and for us to be able to talk and chat beforehand. We always are learning from each other.
Yes.
So you don't learn anything in a vacuum, right? So I've had the great ability and had the wonderful opportunity to work with a lot of different people in different businesses that I meet with every month in a young president YPO organization.
Yes.
C.E.O. as well. And so I get a chance to interact with guys that have businesses that are huge and some of them that are smaller than ours, but everybody has their unique experiences. A lot of it is very similar in terms of, look, you have customers and you have to produce. Everybody has that in common, but what you do and how you do it is what's different. And obviously, I know one thing about my business is that there are certainly a lot of easier ways to make money, but then there's a lot of harder ways to make money too. So that's one thing I've learned. But no, obviously, it's very interesting to have the opportunity to chat with you and with just other businessmen. And I think that's the one thing that you can leave everybody is the opportunity to spend time and talk to other people in business, because you're always going to learn something.
Yes. Thank you for sharing such an amazing story. And I am taking something away from this, Barry. Make your customers make more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.